So, yeah, my name is Joe, one of the co-founders of Haste Arcade, and really the company Haste, which we now have 3 products. I'm going to talk about 2 of them, the arcade itself, which is what we were originally known for, a game called JPEG Wars, which is the newest thing we've released, and then TakeIt NFT, which I'll just touch on real quick. That's probably the most like Bitcoin product that we have. In essence, think about an auction platform where you either get what you're bidding on or you're making a profit on your bid. So the idea there would be, just real quick, say there was a $100 NFT pair of shoes, whatever it is. I would bid my $100. I would then be in possession of those shoes. The price increases 30%. And if someone else bids on top of my bid, I get my $100 back plus a 6% profit on the $130. So we call it like a win-win auction standpoint. You're either getting a profit or you're getting the NFT / like item that you would bid on. We're not going to touch on that one anymore, though. So Haste, and my assessment of our company and of Bitcoin in general has changed over the couple of years that we've been doing this. We're focused on community now. And in essence, our community started in 2021. It's reached 30,000 different accounts, gamers, NFT enthusiasts, and that's now spanning across, we still consider BSV to be the primary blockchain, but we do things now on BTC and Ethereum. So what we actually believe is that Bitcoin is a social network as much as it is a technology. And this is something that I think earlier, we haven't heard a whole lot of talk about ordinals, which came out earlier this year, but that has shown me at least that there is more to growing and scaling this network than just having the best technology. And I think that we, at least ourselves, have learned a lesson from the BTC community once ordinals came out. If you're not familiar with what that is, I can tell you all about it during the cocktail hour. Bitcoin, the technology, unlocks Bitcoin, the idea. That's another thing. I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole. That has nothing to do really with gaming. But again, if you want my opinion on that, you can find me during the cocktail hour. But what this ties together is that we think gaming is a great way to build community, and it's a natural entry point for blockchain technology. So with that, we have the Haste Arcade. And in essence, what our original concept was using micropayments to reward gamers for playing casual games and being good at them. So the arcade itself right now, there's, I think, 26 total games. 16 of them you can play and earn from our leaderboard payouts. And what that looks like is, I play a game like that Dungeon Quest game you see up there. That's basically Pac-Man reskinned. You're going to spend a penny or 10 cents or $1 in the form of what we have now, our Haste credits. And in essence, if I get on a leaderboard, say I get first place, I have the highest score in the 10-cent bracket, anyone that plays after me for as long as I'm in that position, I'm going to earn a fraction of their gameplay spent. And so this is demonstrating the original capabilities of BSV and micropayments. So back in the day when we first started, it's been a while actually now since we put this first game out. But if you got on one of these leaderboards, your phone, Zach's been pinging people pennies all day. It was just nonstop, hundreds and hundreds of micropayments just coming from playing these simple casual games and getting on these leaderboards. So, you spend 10 cents, you walk away with $2. That's a pretty good return. We've expanded that, obviously. We now have, like I said, 16 play and earn games. Half of those have actually been submitted by third-party developers. So we do have a software development kit, which is a way for game devs to take the payout structure that we've created and integrate it with their games. And I'll explain in a couple of minutes why we think that's a new way for game devs to look at actually monetizing the games that they're building. Like I said, the 26 free-to-play games, so any game in our arcade you can play for free. 16 of them you can pay and play and earn. We say play and earn because we think that games should be fun first. Earning should be a secondary benefit. That's probably contrary if you've been following blockchain gaming to play to earn. We think that's kind of the wrong way to look at it. And then in the arcade, we also have an in-game asset marketplace. So these would be NFTs, things like you'll see later in my presentation, different skins, different weapons for games that you're actually purchasing from our marketplace. They're NFTs. You can use them in the game. And then if you get tired of them, you can resell them again in the marketplace. So I think a couple people have hit on this industry already, gaming, and why we think it's a very good place for people to start. But it's a massive industry, $300 billion. That's more than music and film combined, which was a surprise to me when I first learned about that. And then you have some of these major games like a Fortnite or a League of Legends that are getting more views than, professional sports. So for example, in 2021, the League of Legends championship was streamed to over 100 million people live. That was more than the Super Bowl that year. And I don't think that many people would understand or have at least recognized or understood that like the market is that big when you think about the Super Bowl obviously being the biggest sporting event outside of the World Cup that we have. This industry is consisted of the game developers, obviously, and the gamers. So on the game dev standpoint, you typically have your AAA studios, which are going to be your massive games like a Call of Duty or a FIFA or a, what's the other one that's really popular? Grand Theft Auto, spending hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars sometimes, and they're generating significant revenue. That's a small portion of the market. The market that we're going after is the more independent developers. And they can still build really, really excessive games, really develop things, but think more hyper casual. So you're on a plane, you're playing Candy Crush, you're on the subway, you're playing little solitaire games, stuff like that. That's the market that we're going after. And the reason is that only about 5% of any game developer is able to monetize and actually create a profit from the games that we're building. And we think that our structure and our SDK helps them change that. And I'll touch on that in the next slide. And then again, the gamers, I think Mike said earlier, there were 4 billion. It's 3 billion, but it's just $1 billion off, not too much. So the challenges that we believe we are addressing would be number one, the business models for the game developers to start. So they have 3 options typically. You can have a free game with advertisements. So by a show of hands, like who here likes when YouTube shows them an advertisement or something like that? Anybody? There's usually one person that's like a joker. No? Okay. You have the free with in-game purchases. So, that would be buying, an in-game asset like what I had talked about. Or you have the bigger AAA studio type games that have a large upfront cost. And that's really going to like cut down on who can actually afford to play that game. So like I just said, from the gamer's perspective, advertisements, we all just agreed, they're annoying. The upfront cost really limits the market. So unless you're in the United States or a major first world country, you probably can't afford what's now like a $70 cost just to start playing the game. And then the other aspect would be, if I've never played a game before, so not like a Madden franchise where people are familiar with the gameplay, but a new like story type game that comes out, if you don't know anything about it, it's a risk. You might not like that game. Like me personally, there was a game I bought. It was super hyped a couple of years ago. And after like 3 days of trying to play it, I still couldn't figure it out. And I was like, man, I'm out $60. That was a complete waste. And I couldn't resell the game or anything like that. So I just felt like I lit my money on fire. And then the last bit would be the expectancy of how long, if you're a game developer, you can actually monetize or expect people to play your game. So right now, in the traditional model, after that initial excitement wears off, there's not really any incentives for people to continue playing. And focusing on the hyper casual games, these things' lifespan is basically a day or 2 days. You play it, you see if you actually are good at it, okay, great, and then it still gets kind of boring after that. So that's going to delimit the potential revenue for the game developers, right? If people are only playing for a day or so, you have a very small window to capture their attention and potentially monetize that user. So what we've done is that with micropayments and with our leaderboard payout structure, the game developer is one of those people that's monetized on every single gameplay. So we have a third-party game developer called Hologram Soft. They've put out 100 or so games over the last 5 years. They came to us 2022. Their first game, within the first week, it made $150 for them. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but they were ecstatic. They came back to us saying like, this is more money than we've made over the course of 100 games for the last 5 years. And it's because every single time someone's playing, there's no advertisement, but they're making money. They're getting a fraction of the revenue that's being generated from that gameplay. So we think that for the independent game developer, that's a really, really powerful incentive. And the games don't have to be that complex. Anybody that's in here that's played in our arcade, like we'll say it, our games are silly, they're stupid, they're not that advanced. But you're able to monetize right from the start. Game collectibles, so that would be the in-game assets that I was talking about. If you're a designer, you don't even have to be the game developer. We've had people who have made their own in-game asset collections. So that game Dungeon Quest that I talked about, which looks like Pac-Man. We had someone who was an artist say, hey, I really like this game. could I build a second skin for it? Could I create, something that people could actually buy? So it was called, not Crazy Pills, Inner Demons. And basically they took the Dungeon Quest theme, turned it into like a mental hospital where you're a patient trying to escape. And they were selling these things for 25 bucks a piece. So you're giving people now another way to monetize just through, this platform. And then the last bit would be if you're an independent game developer, or any game developer for that matter, you typically have to spend your own marketing dollars to get the word out about your game. And with these independent, smaller, hyper-casual games, the strategy is typically, if we release 100 games, spend $100,000 on marketing, we hope that one of them hits and can get 50,000, 100,000, a million users so that we can start making money from the ads. Well, we already have a user base, right? So they can come to us, release a game, and instantly be seen without having to spend a single marketing dollar by, I said there's 30,000 people in this ecosystem. Daily active users is definitely lower than that at this point. But nevertheless, these are people that are eager to play new games anytime they come into the arcade. Now, for the gamers, we talked that there's no ads, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. People that are in the ecosystem, spending a penny or a tenth of a cent, that doesn't feel like a huge ask for them. So you have a very low barrier in terms of cost. And I guess the last bit would be when you typically play these games, even if you get bored of them, if you've gotten good at the game and you're actually monetizing it, so you're making leaderboards, it gives you another reason to keep playing, which from the game developer's perspective, you're going to keep generating revenue from that user longer than you typically would. I want to touch on this real quick. This in-game asset, if you see the hat on the right there, that is an actual physical hat that my character on the left here is wearing in the game. So this was something that we did to merge that TakeIt NFT platform that I mentioned with our actual arcade. We built this game called Monster Bombs. We did an NFT drop, or I'm sorry, an NFT sale, where if you bought one of those hats, you would get the hat physically, and then we actually sent you an NFT that you could then equip on your character in the game. We didn't think that had ever been done before. We'd seen like Adidas did something where if you buy shoes, you get an NFT, but you couldn't actually equip it in a game. So this is actually giving utility to that NFT. The game that I want to highlight, I don't know if this is going to work, this button, and part of this video, this was made by someone who just played this game, talking about community, which I'll hit on in a sec, but let's see if this works.
Yes, got to be some JPEG Wars.
That's Drake, by the way.
Yes, got to be some JPEG Wars. Yes, got to be some JPEG Wars. Yes, got to be some JPEG Wars. Yes, got to be some JPEG Wars.
So I want to touch on this game. It's the most recent thing we've put out, and it's definitely more advanced than any other game that we've built, but it goes back to community, what I talked about at the beginning. The thought process behind this game was that if you have a BTC ordinal, a BSV ordinal, an Ethereum NFT, you can connect your wallet to the game itself and use your actual NFT or ordinal within that game. Can you go to the next slide? I think I might have just pushed that again. And what this does is it gives utility to any ordinal or NFT, whether the creator wanted that or not, which we thought was a really cool concept, right? Like you had these things like Bored Ape Yacht Club or CryptoPunks. People are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on them. And really all they can do is show them off for clout. Well, we built a game where regardless of what the creator wanted, if you have one of those NFTs now, you can use it within this game. And we think that's applicable outside of just gaming. What else it does for the creators themselves, we've had a number of them, collections that nobody has ever heard of, getting showcased within the game just because they have an active community playing, and now it starts driving more sales for their NFTs. They've come to us and said, wow, our Discord is going crazy because people are wanting to play in these JPEG War games at 7 o'clock every night. And then also you have people seeing, like, there's this collection called the G-Night Punks, which is a DGen thing. But in essence, they added like 15 new people to their community who wanted to buy these G-Night Punk NFTs just because they saw them for the first time in our game and were like, wow, that's really cool. They didn't have any marketing campaign. They didn't spend any money on that stuff. It was just completely organic growth that they did just because it was in this game. So going back to the idea of community, that's what we wanted to do with this game. And I think that, so far it's been a really fun project. It's my favorite game in the arcade. As you can see, 62 different collections, BTC, BSV, Ethereum, all coming together, playing against each other. Maybe you're a BTCer and you don't like BSV. Great, now you can come and battle them on what we call the battlefield. Our roadmap, Haste Arcade, we got to keep putting out more games. We get questions about that all the time. It takes a couple months to build. And then the other thing that I think is interesting, we've been looking at like online casinos. And one last example I'll give, a lot of these casinos, mostly East Asia, they have a couple million users who are sitting there with a wallet that has $5 or less in, and that's not enough money to actually have a gameplay in poker or in blackjack or whatever. But if they could actually get those users to spend that $5 now in the form of micropayments, they just increase their revenue by millions and millions of dollars. And that's something that we're looking at right now. I don't know if that's going to end up happening because there's a lot of obviously like technological stuff to go through with that. But we think like in the future, that's a really interesting use case for these types of games in the online casino world. TakeIt, more collections, obviously, giving creators more tools so that we can make it a little bit more interesting and exciting. And then JPEG Wars, again, that's my favorite game. I really have come around to the idea that community is equally as important as technology in the blockchain space. So I think, to be honest, like Nicola hit on a lot of things that I have changed my opinion on as well. And I think that if there was one thing I would want to harp on when you're looking at these different companies, don't overlook community and how important it is. I think BTC Ordinals has shown us that. And I think that if we can harness that, as a BSV community, it'll help us take the next step. And I think a lot of us here have been waiting for that to happen for a while. I'm personally one of those people, and I hope that we can contribute to that as well. So if there's any questions, I think I might be over my time, but thank you.
Thank you, Joe.